Welcome to Mac Power Users. My name is David Sparks, and I am joined by the one and only, the Apple genius, Mac Pro, Mr. Stephen Hackett.
That's quite the introduction. Hello.
I was there, man. I was at Mac Stock when you took apart a Mac right in front of a group of people.
Yeah, just cracked open an iMac. I think I opened a Mac Mini too, if I remember.
When's the last time you opened up a Mac?
Very recently, actually. I told this story on Connected, but my wife's M1 MacBook Pro had a thing of water knocked into it
Uh-oh.
by the cat. And so I scrambled and took the back of it off and let it dry. It never came back on. So she now has this is a funny story. So it was my old MacBook Pro, right? I handed it down.
Yeah.
She doesn't need a MacBook Pro. I wasn't going to go buy another MacBook Pro to replace it. I was like, hey, let's, look at the MacBook Air. This was a 14-inch MacBook Pro. So they have an Air that's 13 inches, which she's had before, but not the new body design. And they have a 15-inch MacBook Air. It's if you want a little bit bigger, it's still very thin and light, but a bigger screen. And so she opted for the 13. She kind of wants the portability. And I was like, well, they have a couple of different colors. And I was like, they have, whatever it is, space gray, silver, starlight, whatever, and then sky blue. She's like, oh, let's go crazy. Let's get sky blue.
You mean gray with blue if you squint?
Oh, dude, it's like they were anodizing something blue across the street, and just a couple of particles floated across the street down a vent shaft where this MacBook Air was being cooked. It's very light blue, but she is really liking it. The battery life's incredible, of course, on the new MacBook Airs, and thin and light. She's very happy with it. But when we unboxed it, she was like, "I thought you ordered the blue one." I was like, "Oh, that is the blue one." It does look more blue in the evening, right? Our living room has a lot of light, natural light, and in the evening when it's darker in there, it looks more blue, but it is not a blue laptop. It is mostly silver.
Which makes this orange iPhone such an anomaly, right? I mean, just last year, that was their version of blue. Mm-hmm. And yet we have this orange iPhone. I would love to know the story behind that, how that came about.
Me too.
How is your orange iPhone doing?
Okay, it's good. As of this recording, though, I'm spending a week with the iPhone Air because I'm going to write a review. My idea of my review, it will not be out by the time this show comes out, I'm sorry, is these two phones are two different possible futures for the iPhone. And so I'm spending time with both. So the Pro is just off in the drawer. My eSIM is on the Air. They're both really good phones. The cameras on the Pro are just unbelievable. And I really like the design, the chunkiness and sort of I know it's aluminum and glass, but the perceived ruggedness of the Pro I really like. But then I pick up the Air and there's snap. This is not the phone for me because I want the cameras and the battery life's better than some people would have you believe, but it's not as good as the Pro. But you pick the thing up and it's dang, this phone is sick.
Well, see, I don't like the narrative that the future has to be one. I feel it makes sense to have both. I just talked to a good friend who bought the Air for his wife. He says she doesn't care about battery. She doesn't go out much,
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't care about the camera, and she freaking loves her phone, and that's what it's there for.
Yeah. So that's sort of the ending spot of the review that's half written in my head is they're both the future. They're both. The foldable is going to be two iPhone Airs taped together, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. With an asterisk. I mean, I think it's going to be thinner because they can spread the battery out over two devices. But yeah.
But it'll be like this, or it'll be in this lineage. But the Pro is is more pro-ish than ever, right? They're doing more camera stuff. We're going to talk about that a lot more on a future episode, but it's great. And I love the orange. Every time I see it, it's just I love this. I've not gotten tired of it. I've not grown weary of it. I will say it draws attention. I think because it's the new phone and because it's orange. I've had several instances now, using Apple Pay somewhere, like the person's like, oh, is that the new one? It's like, I don't know the last time that happened with a phone. It was probably the iPhone 10, to be honest.
Yeah. And I really wonder about next year because we're supposed to get this folding phone, and I think I'm probably down for that. But I feel like this Pro phone is so good.
It's
like,
so
what
good.
if the folding phone has like inferior cameras, and battery life because it's got a power 3 screens? It'll be an interesting year next year.
Yeah, if iPhones are fun again.
Yeah, exactly. That is one of my takeaways. Is it's just fun. It's fun to have ideas and choices and compromises that actually works. Hey guys, we made it through September. St. Jude. We had a good month for St. Jude. Want to thank everybody who contributed. As always, the Mac Power users came through again. You guys do every year, and it means a lot to Stephen and I, and it means even more to a lot of families that are benefiting from St. Jude. So thank you, everybody, for stepping in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have a couple of links in the show notes. One to a blog post I wrote about a week ago, talking about sort of what the fundraiser means to me. But also, I sat down for an interview about St. Jude with Chris Pennington, who runs the YouTube channel Coding in Public. And so we talked about if you've never heard my St. Jude story in its kind of longer form, that is where to go. So those links will be in the show notes. But yes, thank you so much. We'll have the final total in a couple of days, but it has been an amazing month, and it always means so much.
And today on More Power Users, because we're talking about macOS today, we're going to talk about how we customize the Finder, because now there are some customization things you can do, and Steve and I are having fun, so I'm looking forward to talking about that.
And the only thing more spicy than Finder opinions is where you put the dock. So we're just swinging for the fences today for members.
Are we going to throw that gauntlet down? Oh, boy.
It's on the right side. That's where it belongs.
I'm not going to say anything until we get there, because this is something. I mean, I have thoughts. All right. The big story today is macOS Tahoe. We got a new operating system for the Mac, as we do generally every year. In fact, can we start the conversation there, Stephen? Do we need a new macOS every year?
Not for the Mac's sake itself, but I think that's how they are, how they're keeping the Mac in step with iOS and iPadOS. I mean, if you remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, we would be in the situation where the iPhone and iPad, or sometimes just the iPhone, would get a feature. And then the next year, the iPad and or the Mac would come along. In fact, I wrote this blog post that made a lot of people angry called macOS, the tag-along operating system or something, outlining the many ways in which macOS was behind iOS and iPadOS. But they've righted that ship, no doubt, thanks to things like Mac Catalyst and Swift UI. Features basically come to all of these OSs at the same time. And, some years what the Mac gets is what its mobile cousins get. But as we get a little bit later in this episode, this year in particular has Mac-only features. And so the annual release used to bother me, especially since they weren't keeping it up with the other platforms. But now that they're basically in sync, I've just resigned myself. It's the way that it is. And you know what? I'm happy that the Mac's getting those features the same time my phone does.
Yeah, I've about faced on this entirely. I think now, I used to make fun of it. Now I think they should do it because the operating systems are also integrated, and the AI story is evolving. I can't imagine them fixing Siri on the iPhone and saying, well, we're going to take a year off on the Mac and we'll come back next year. You just can't do that anymore. And I feel like it has to be done across. It's one of the reasons they made Swift UI, so they could make features that go across platforms. And I think they need to do it. That said, I still think there need to be features and maybe projects that are multi-year. I suspect this new, this new liquid glass thing is a multi-year project. I don't think that they just cook this up over 3 months. And I think that needs to be a thing. But I also think we need to get yearly updates. So, okay, we're kind of on I thought we were going to have a dispute there, but we're on the same page.
So let's start with the liquid glass. I think that's what this OS is going to be remembered for. And to rewind to WWDC, right? Apple comes out. We have a new design language. It's on all of our platforms at once.
First time ever for something like that.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this when, of course, lots of people are reflecting on iOS 7 this year because of the liquid glass change. If you remember, iOS 7 was the same year as OS 10 Mavericks, which was not flat. That didn't happen until the next year, I guess, with Yosemite. Again, the Mac being a year behind. That flatter design didn't come to the Mac the same time it did on the iPhone and iPad. But this time, it's effectively everywhere. It's not evenly distributed. And I think, in particular, like they've pulled some elements of liquid glass into the Mac, but it is not as I think far-reaching as it is on the iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very different on some platforms. Like I've been spending a lot of time in visionOS coming up to today's show, and I feel like it's the least liquid glass of all of them. At the same time, it's kind of the forefather of liquid glass. It's a strange dichotomy.
Yeah, I had a reader of 512 send me a screenshot that they had taken back in the day on the first version of macOS 10, and it's like transparency everywhere. Like these buttons in the early versions of Aqua look more like liquid glass than the buttons we have in Tahoe, which is very funny. Yeah. But yeah, it's you see it, I think, most prominently in places like the dock and the app switcher, which I really like the way it looks in the app switcher and the dock. You see it in some apps, like I think Photos is probably the best example, where, you know, as the photos slide around, the buttons are liquidy above them. But in other places, it's far more subdued.
You know, this is a super nerdy topic, but the roundness of the window was not an immediate love affair for me. Mm-mm. How they're so much more pronounced. The radius is bigger, and now you can absolutely tell which of your apps are updated and which aren't. Just look at the corner of any window, and you'll know immediately.
Yeah.
But over time, like everything else with liquid glass, I've just kind of got like, okay, that's kind of nice, but it is an adjustment, I think.
It definitely is. And I think as apps get updated, they will adopt the more rounded look. Like right now I have Notion and Safari up. The windows look different, right? Like Notion is less round, has smaller stoplight icons. Safari, much more round. The icons are more pronounced. That'll just take some time, I think, for everyone to catch up. And I think that's just part of this, right? Anytime there's a UI change, there's a season of transition as developers figure it out. That's not a big deal. I was like you. I didn't really like the rounded corners at first, but I think they're fine. Like, you know, in some places it feels like, okay, like I could have, like if you have like a full width photo or a PDF in a window, it's like, yeah, it does actually kind of encroach into the very edges, but it's just the very edges. And it does make the Mac feel a little bit softer, I think in a good way, but also just more harmonious with the phone, right? The phone and modern iPads all have rounded displays. And even though the Macs don't really in the same way, at least the windows kind of feel the same.
Yeah, agreed. And it's just, the whole thing just takes a bit getting used to. Like, for instance, the menu bar is another one. I've heard from a lot of listeners that are not happy with the menu bar because there's no longer a distinct stripe behind it. Depending on your wallpaper, you can feel like your menu bar icons get lost behind it. Mm-hmm. To me, that has just not been an issue at all. It's kind of grown on me. I kind of like not having the stripe up there anymore.
Yeah, I think it's probably super dependent on your wallpaper. Like the wallpaper I'm using right now is of the lunar rover parked on the moon, and the top of it's black because it's just like the moon and then just, you know, space, literally space black.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of contrast up there, but I could see, you know, if you're using a photo or something a bit busier, maybe it doesn't work. My kind of complaint about this is that if you use the default, which is no stripe behind the menu bar, they're actually applying a gradient to like the base window, which is the desktop and your icons. So there's actually, if you toggle it on and off back and forth, you can see it. It actually puts a slight gradient on the wallpaper and those icons to help with the contrast, which is fine, I guess. It's kind of weird. Nick here wrote this great thing. I'm going to have it in the show notes. He wrote, I think, what is the best thing I've read on liquid glass. And he has this sentence in here that when I read it, I was like, dang, I wish I had thought of that first. Like, it's so good. He's talking about something else with liquid glass, but he says, it's Apple's clever solution to a problem Apple created. It's like, there's quite a bit of that in places on liquid glass. And I think the mini bar could be one of them.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a bit of a flex there, right? So many people have tried to do a transparent operating system and never been successful at it, that I can see that, the team saying, okay, let's do transparent and we will make it work. And there are some weird, kind of hacks around it, but they are trying to make it work. I mean, I guess I should say going in, my thoughts on liquid glass, I don't think it's changing the world the way Apple says, but I don't think it's the crisis that its critics are saying either. I think it's in the middle. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's a different look. It was time for a different look. They wanted to take this on. I feel like over time they're gonna smooth out the rough edges, and this is just gonna be the way things look.
I do have a couple of things that are on the less okay end of the spectrum, at least in my opinion.
Sure.
Sidebars and toolbars, I still have not gotten used to. So and we'll use Finder as sort of the canonical example. The sidebars appear to be like a layer above their windows or inset in the window. It's kind of both at the same time. Like it's a bit strange.
There's like a rectangle, but then there is the floating sidebar inside the rectangle. Like I'm looking in Safari right now.
Yeah, it's odd. And like macOS has done since Yosemite, that material picks up background color a little bit, mostly of your wallpaper, but the rest of the window does it to a lesser degree or not at all. You can get it in kind of a weird state. But what I do like about the sidebar, like in Finder, is that the contrast on the text and the icons is really good. Like I have a bunch of favorites in the sidebar, and they feel more legible to me than they have in a long time. So I do appreciate that darker text. I think it's a little bit bigger than it was before. But the thing that I just can't get behind is how toolbars look. Instead of like liquid lozenge buttons, they are oval shaped, and in light mode, basically they're white with a drop shadow. Like there's none of the glossiness or anything with liquid glass. They look a little bit better in dark mode, but it's not at all what buttons look like on all the other platforms.
Yeah, it is odd. I agree.
Super strange. What do you think about them bringing transparent, tinted, and dark widgets and icons to the Mac?
I was going to ask you about that. I am kind of leaning into it. At first, I wasn't sure, but and this also transfers over to the phone. But I've always been kind of a fan. They've always had like kind of a muted version of widgets on your Mac. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that. I like that it's not so shiny. And when it comes up, it's less intrusive. So I've always been a general fan of the monochrome look. And I think it's okay. Now, earlier in the beta, it was too transparent.
Yeah.
And there were readability issues. But I feel like they're close enough with what it is now. And I'm sure people will complain, but honestly, just switch it over to the full color and then you won't really get that. But I like it. I guess that was a long-winded answer to, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it definitely builds atop what they were doing. Now you can set dock icons to be transparent or tinted as well. And that gets picked up in other places, just like on the share sheet in iOS and iPadOS. If you have tinted your home screen icons, those icons are tinted in the share sheet. Yeah. Same thing here where they are tinted or clear in the, like, for instance, system settings. Like all of those get changed.
Yeah.
I am not really using these features. Like the full color icons make the most sense to me. It's like if I'm looking for Safari, I'm basically just looking for like a blue circle out of the corner of my eye, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that gives you another context as color. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I, for whatever reason, rely on that. But I think it's great that, again, it's on all the platforms at once. Like, I can tell you, these are popular features. People like the clear look. People like the tinting. And to have that on the Mac where like all of your devices could be the same, that's really great. Like if this is what you want, that's awesome. And it's a great example of customization that doesn't get in the way. Like if you don't want any of this stuff, you just never turn it on. But it's there for people who want it. A lot of people do want it, and a lot of people are using it. And I'm glad that the Mac kind of got it at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I go back and forth on it, to tell you the truth, but I do generally like it and the idea of it. I like making my devices a little less attractive, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But on the icon thing, like we used to have shapes. Like there were 3 ways to tell if it was the icon you wanted. There was unique shapes, which we've lost. Now they're all squares. And, then there was color, which we can lose now. And then there was the actual content. That being said, I rarely launch things from the dock. It's more of a reference area for me. I just launch things with the keyboard. So it's not that big of a deal to me. And I just like it kind of being like whatever my wallpaper is, I kind of want that to be the focus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still hooked on that redwood wallpaper from a couple OSs ago, where the big redwood trees. So that's mine. Usually when I'm not recording, that's usually my wallpaper.
So yeah, I think overall, Liquid Glass is okay. I don't love the icon shapes all being the same, but I get it. I do, however, I have 2 first-party apps that I just struggling with. The first is Safari. Safari is always like a weird kind of UI playground at times. A long time ago, they put tabs on the top. Like that was weird. But there are 2 things in Safari. One, I think it really shows that the current tab design, this is also in Finder and, any tabbed application, they're oval, long, skinny ovals, and they're set in some sort of track or like they're in like a little grouping together and there's space in between them. So if you tab between them really quickly, like they don't overlap. They sort of butt up against each other like they're in a groove or something. A little bit weird. And when you get a bunch of tabs, it kind of breaks down, I think, because they end up basically like putting straight little vertical lines between them. And then when you hover over them or make one active, they return to the oval shape. It's a bit much.
I haven't got used to that yet. It just looks weird.
Yeah. But the big thing in Safari, and I run into this a lot because in the Relay CMS, there's a lot of things that we do a modal to like, are you really sure you want to remove the audio from this episode? Are you really sure you want to publish an episode without any audio? Like just mistakes people have made over the years. We put modals in now. And when you have a modal, so like a pop-up, like, hey, do you want to delete this email or whatever? The whole browser window goes gray and the modal is white, which makes sense, right? You want to draw attention to it. But also in focus is the tab and all of the controls in the toolbar. So your URL bar, any share extensions, any other buttons, navigation buttons up there also become white. It feels like a mistake. Like it looks super weird. And every time I encounter it, I'm just like, oh, like why is it yelling at me? Like, why is it trying to get my attention so much? I hope that gets adjusted.
Yeah, I feel like that probably is a mistake. I don't think that's intentional. Yeah. I am curious about myself because there's all these AI browsers kind of making the rounds now. I've been playing a lot lately with Dia. I don't know if you've tried that one. I'm like, is this the year that I'm going to not use Safari as my primary browser? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have done, the Chrome Safari dance over the years. I use Chrome for a lot of other work stuff. Safari is sort of like my personal browser at this point, but yeah. The other first party app that I don't know what's going on in it is music. They moved all the play controls to the bottom of the window for a reason I don't understand.
Because it's like that on the phone.
Maybe.
I mean,
but I'm on a 27-inch display. Like,
yeah, I know.
Anyway, that's a bit weird. But there's a lot of like, maybe it's because music on the Mac is actually a very old application. If you have like the up next or some other sidebars, you get weird UI bugs, like scrolling, and it scrolls like underneath something that you should be able to read, but you can't, or the controls move around. I think the music team needs a little more time on this version.
I feel like anybody listening to me, if you have an Alfred license, spend 10 minutes this weekend and figure out how to run your music from Alfred. I'm just telling you, I haven't opened the music app like in years because it's so much faster with Alfred and you don't have to deal with it. And the music app always seems to me like a waste of space when I open it. I don't need a window to play my music. The idea of music is it's for your ears, not for your eyes, and Alfred has a very powerful system to launch any playlist, any song, any album. And if you just get it under your fingers, it is way faster than monkeying around with the music app. So that's my solution to the music app problems. I just don't use it. So I mentioned the icons earlier, but I got to say, this whole thing where it takes old icons and puts them in a box, I feel like they could have done better than this.
Yeah, me too. The Mac has such a rich history of icon design, and even a lot of Apple's own apps. Like in the Big Sur era, Apple tried like, okay, there's kind of like 3 shapes you kind of need to fit within. But this is straight up like you are a squircle or you are put in a squircle with your icon floating in gray, like Notions is right now in my dock, which is really gross. I just really, even on the phone, like I would like developers to be able to set their own icon shapes. It works on Android. It works on Windows. Like it's totally fine. Again, like the color talk earlier, it makes it even easier to spot what is what. And again, in this transition, right? Like I have several apps on my dock or several apps that I use on a regular basis that are their former icons shrunken to, 75% in a gray squircle, and it makes them actually harder to see. And it sort of feels like they're punishing the developers for not updating. And that, I don't love that change. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah. But some of this stuff does look really good. You've mentioned the app switcher. I agree with you. The brightness and volume overlays, I mean, that's pretty nice the way they've done that now.
Yeah, it's kind of in the notification area. It's super liquid, glassy. Like those things didn't. I mean, they were like a floating panel at like the bottom third of your screen, basically forever. They just didn't need to take up that much space. The other thing I really like about it is that with the audio control, Apple puts in what audio device is set as the output. So I use external speakers on my desk, and it shows like the speaker name as it is set in system settings. So it's like reinforcing where the sound is coming out of, which I think is a great feature. Like how many times have you hooked a laptop up to HDMI and like the sound doesn't come out where you expect and you're digging through system settings? Look, now, if you just hit the volume button, it'll tell you where it's coming out, and then you can go in and adjust it accordingly if you need to. Just a little affordance that I really appreciate as someone who switches between audio devices on a regular basis, because I have my interface for recording, and sometimes I'm just on my MacBook Pro, or sometimes I'm using my speakers. Like I think it's a really nice little addition. I'm glad they added it when they were in there.
All right, we dumped on the app icons, but what do you think of the dock overall?
I like the liquid glass effect. You get a window close to it and it gets liquidy inside of it. Like, I think that's fun. They didn't really change a lot about how the dock works, which I think is fine. Like the dock is kind of a solved problem, but the design, I think it works. I mean, there've been various levels of transparency in the dock for years. Like for a while, it was like a shiny shelf and the icon sat on top of it, like in the Leopard days. That was weird. And then, other times it's been too clear, or, this is like a good middle ground. It blurs the background enough where the icons stand out. And if you move a window near it, it gets reflective. Like I dig it.
Yeah. I think overall though, Apple is good at design. I think that they're going to nail down some of these trouble areas. It's out in the public now. They're going to hear about it. I'm sure their own designers are not going to be happy with some of the After Effects and, sharp edges, like I've said, that they bumped into. I don't think they're going to switch gears anytime soon. Liquid glass is here probably for another, 5 to 10 years. And I think if you look at this in 2 or 3 years, there'll be very few of those problems left.
I hope so.
And, the other thing I should say is This has been we talked about iOS 7 earlier. This has been a way easier transition. We'd have not had all of the problems that came with iOS 7.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like on the Mac in particular, it's been really smooth. Like, if you don't update, there's a couple of design things you don't get, but you don't look super out of place, right? Like, yeah, the round corners or the icons are different, but it's not like I'm tabbing between a couple of different versions of the OS when I switch between apps. And, I think that is good. And honestly, I think we talked about it. That also goes with iOS and iPadOS. Like, yeah, an app that's not updated, it does look old, but it doesn't look broken. It doesn't look like it's from a different platform, right? It's like, oh, that's just the old style. And, hopefully the developers will update it and it'll fit in a bit better. This episode of Mac Power Users is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform designed to help you stand out and succeed online. So whether you're just beginning or maybe you're scaling a business, Squarespace gives you everything you need to claim a domain name, showcase your offerings with a professional website, grow your brand, and get paid all in one place. This is a true story. I was having lunch with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they're getting ready to start a photography side business, right? Family photos and that sort of thing. And they wanted to know what I thought, and we talked through some business stuff. And then the question came to a website. How do you do this? How do you show a gallery and do bookings? Like Squarespace. Squarespace is the answer because it has all of that stuff. And maybe you're not a designer, right? Squarespace's AI-enhanced website builder lets you quickly and easily build a site bespoke to your business. You input some basic information about your industry and goals, and this all gets integrated with Squarespace's lovely and professionally designed and award-winning website templates. You can offer your services and get paid, from consultations to events and experiences, family photos. In the case of my friend, you can showcase your offerings with a customizable website and have built-in appointment scheduling, email marketing tools, invoicing, and get paid easily with online payments. It's all under one roof, and that's what I love about Squarespace. Head to squarespace.com/MPU for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code MPU to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain name. That's squarespace.com/MPU to get 10% off your first purchase. Our thanks to Squarespace for their support of Mac Power Users and all of Relay.
So I talked about Alfred a minute ago, but Apple's own Alfred Spotlight this year got a lot better. And let's talk about that for a little bit. Have you been using it?
I have been. So since I put the beta on like a MacBook Air that I have floating around, I didn't put Alfred on it. I've been using Spotlight.
Sure.
And I put Tahoe on my main machine a couple of days ago in prep for this. It's like, okay, now it's time to live with this. It's probably been on here about a week, and I've been using Spotlight. And I really got to say, it has come so far. Because I haven't used it in basically 10 years, I think it's been getting better. But the new features this year really level it up into something that's much more like an Alfred or a Raycast or something else than it has previously been. I think that's super interesting.
Do you foresee a future where you don't install Alfred? You just stick with Spotlight?
I don't know. I'm still in the time period where Spotlight can feel frustrating, but if I sit back and think about it for a minute, it's the muscle memory that hasn't caught up. So much of Alfred is triggers, right? Like you hit Command Space and CB and you get to the clipboard, or BB and you get to your bookmarks. And Spotlight has a little bit of that, which we'll talk about, but it's set up to be, I think, a bit more friendly. And so like, it's just I need to get used to it. I don't think it's a problem that, Spotlight can't do the thing I want it to do. It's that I haven't like internalized how I get to it yet.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about it for folks who are playing with Spotlight. It has dramatically increased the number of built-in features it has. They've got modes to it now. Like you can switch between searching apps, searching files, running automations, and going to your clipboard. And so they've got like a lot of features now that historically just were not available in Spotlight. And it does a pretty good job at what they have taken on. I will say that it is not an unlimited number of features. And just to jump to the end on this one for me, Alfred is still firmly installed because there's just things Alfred can do that Spotlight cannot, like play my music, So there is a limitation there. But for the basics, for getting to files, for doing the things that they allow you to do in Spotlight, it's perfectly adequate now.
Yeah, it's and they've done it in a way that if you're just using it for search, the other things don't get in the way. And the way they've done that is Spotlight effectively has 4 modes now, and you can switch between them manually, and then there's some ways to like kind of not have to switch between them. But you have search, so you have applications and files. Again, if you just hit Command Space and start typing, it'll figure out what you want, but you can dig down a little bit more. So if you're in the files section, you get a filtered view of just files. So there's no applications in there. There's no actions in there. It'll offer you some suggestions based on recent activity and historical activity. But then it provides a set of filters that let you focus on a specific file type. So you can type /PDF and it just like it narrows it down to just PDFs. And Spotlight, I mean, it's 20 years old now. It's wild. It came out with OS X Tiger. And like from the beginning, it's like, oh, you can search by file type. And at least in my experience, that wasn't as concrete as I wanted. And now it's like, okay, I'm just showing you your PDFs. I'm just showing you these images. It doesn't seem to know about all file types. Like it does seem to kind of have some presets in there. And so I wish it were a little bit broader, but getting into a file type or into just your list of applications is really fast now.
Yeah. So I've mapped it to control space where I've got Alfred on command space and then AI on option space. But there are some things that I prefer in Spotlight now, and that wasn't the case, a few years ago. Like certain file types are so much faster to search in Spotlight than try to run a workflow in Alfred. Apple Notes and Devon Think documents are 2 of my favorites. Like you type in the name of any Apple Note or Devon Think document, and Spotlight will surface it. You hit return, and you're in. And I've worked with third-party workflows with Alfred, and they're not as stable as Spotlight is for that problem. And it's like, okay, so now I've trained my little pinky and my thumb to go over to the control key when I want to get into an Apple Note or a Devon Think document. And that just wasn't something that I used to do. I think also like the app search stuff, I hate going into the apps folder. I just, digging around in the Finder just makes me nuts. And now you can hit, there's a couple ways you can do it. You hit Command 1, Command 2, you can switch through the modes or just hit the right and left arrow keys. I recommend if you've got a person in your life who you think can help benefit from this, teach them the keyboard shortcut. Teach them the arrow keys. Because I think most normal people don't remember keyboard shortcuts. But you say, oh, hit the arrow key if you want to search for an app. I think for a lot of people that could be really helpful.
I think so too. And I think that's a nice affordance. Like different people are going to use this different ways. Some people are just going to use their mouse. Some people are going to use Command 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever it might be. We should definitely talk about actions. This is, I think, the most meaningful update to Spotlight. They're building on top of shortcuts and app intents. Could you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a form of automation, and it's an early peek at what we're going to be able to do with our voices once they figure Siri out. I mean, to me, this is the biggest signaling of what they're doing. We talked about app intents the week you're gone. Me and Sal did. So if you haven't listened to the episode, we went in on it kind of deep. But app intents are a language of automation, basically, where an app developer can pretty easily create an automation subroutine out of their application. And this is what drives shortcuts actions. So like whenever you open shortcuts and it gives you an action to print a PDF or whatever, that's most likely an app intent. Apple has been very clear that will be the backbone of the updated Siri and the AI kind of Siri that we're going to get hopefully next year. And now they've folded it into Spotlight as well. I mean, now that they've got this architecture, they're going to start hitting it everywhere. And with it, if you go into it, there's just a whole list of them already. And like real simple things like start a timer, send a message, things that you want to do repeatedly, you can trigger there. And they even have variable calls in it. They don't call them variable calls, but basically you trigger an app intent and it says you want to send a message. Well, who's it to and what will it say, and then you fill it out and off it goes. It also has the ability to add quick keys to it. So if you find yourself sending messages all the time and you want to do it via the app intent, you can add a quick key. You can even add them for specific variable fills. So like I could make one to Stephen Hackett. So I could say if I hit, Control Option S, then create a message to Stephen Hackett, then all I have to do is type in my message and off it goes. So it's a very kind of democratized automation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use it a ton because I am a fancy automator and like a lot of the stuff I write is more complex than what this does.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think this is making automation available to people who wouldn't otherwise do it. And honestly, I just love these app intents. The more they show up, the better. I'm going to add them to my no list app. I want every app developer to make app intents because this is the lingua franca of automation. And the more people who have app intents, the better Shortcuts gets, the better this feature gets, and the better this eventual brain transplant Siri gets. So this is something that I think we should all be encouraging our favorite developers to embrace.
Absolutely. I mean, there's in so many ways, this is the future of automation for most people, right? There's always going to be things for those of us who want more. Keyboard Maestro, Hazel, the command line, right? Automator, shortcuts to a degree. But most people aren't going to learn those apps. Most people don't need those apps. And it's like, yeah, if I could just have a couple of quick things to like, okay, yeah, I, text my boss every time I lock up the building. Like, and I could just do that really quickly with my voice or in Spotlight or typing to Siri. That stuff's useful to everybody. And the way actions work, like it really breaks it down in really understandable pieces. And I think that was the goal behind the Shortcuts UI. I would argue it has failed at that in many ways, because you still end up in Shortcuts very often like needing a loop or like I'm building a menu and it can get complicated quickly. Where actions, they're predefined, right? You're typing in some variables and sending something or making something happen. And I think having it in Spotlight is the perfect place for it because Spotlight is already useful as an application and document launcher. So to have actions there is like just an extension of that. I'm so happy this is where they put it. And they didn't put it in some like weird type to Siri UI that was like off in the corner somewhere. It's like, no, like Spotlight is front and center. This is a section of Spotlight, and that makes it really visible. And that means it's more likely that Mac developers will continue to adopt it and add to their Mac apps, because if this takes off, people are going to expect it. And I think Apple's hoping for a bit of a flywheel effect there, that users want it and developers will add it, and then, it will grow from there. And I think that's really positive.
Yeah, and that's not an if, it's taking off. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look through, anybody listening, go to your Mac, open Spotlight, go to the action list and scroll down and just look to see all the third-party apps that are represented there. I mean, I have a lot because anything that has the support, I usually am looking into because I want to incorporate it into Shortcuts, but I have just hundreds of them. And it's great. IA Writer has a whole suite of them. I didn't even know that existed till just now. But there's a lot of different ones out there, and you'll find uses for it. And like I said, another use for this, because a lot of our listeners are the people who kind of are the sharp end of the stick for their family. And you talked earlier, like, what if you want to tell your boss you locked up the building? Maybe that's your spouse, and you know that they do that every day. You could go in there for them. And you could fill in the name of the boss. You could write the message. So the whole thing is pre-canned, mm-hmm. and then put it on a shortcut they'd remember and say, hey, sweetheart, if you push this button, that message gets sent for you. You don't have to do it ever again.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to tell them how you did it. And that, why not be the hero for that kind of stuff?
I love it. Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah. So Spotlight, we're both a fan. And, they've been flirting with making Spotlight better for years. The UI got a little juice, and then but this year they really took it on. I don't think Alfred and the other apps, Power keyboard launchers are in any jeopardy here of Sherlock. I don't think Apple's going to open them up the way they are opened up. But I am really pleased that they have expanded the functionality of Spotlight.
The last tab there is a clipboard history. We spoke about this after WWDC. It is, it's wild to me that Apple has a first-party clipboard manager now. It is more powerful than I expected it to be. I was a little afraid because they kind of blew through it in the keynote. I was like, oh, this is just going to be text. It does a lot of stuff. There is an 8-hour time limit, which is, some people balk at that. It's fine. I never need a clipboard history. For me is I'm loading up 3 things to paste 3 things. It's not a history for me personally. And so it has, again, in my experiment to use just Spotlight and not Alfred for a while, the clipboard history has not been a hang up other than getting to it. Just again, the muscle memory, but it works as basically doing what I was doing in Alfred. And so I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, the 8 hours is a problem for me because I often do. I've been working on a project for a new field guide for the last couple of days, and I'm definitely using older than 8-hour material on my clipboard. The other thing is, though, I feel like this is a tease of what it could be. Can you imagine a few years from now when it's a 24-hour history and it's on all of your Apple devices, so you can pick it up on your iPad or your Mac or your phone. I feel like Apple as a first party has a unique opportunity here to kind of solve the clipboard problem for us. And I hope this is just the initial toehold. That's my goal. I actually submitted a feedback on that one. If anybody out there wants to follow up with that, please do. I feel like, it's just such an obvious win for them to expand this.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to know why they chose 8 hours. Is it a security thing? But even then, Mac apps can, at least we're using Alfred, so I assume this is a system level thing. Mac apps can basically overwrite their clipboard with something blank. So if you copy a password out of 1Password, it doesn't stay on your clipboard forever. It disappears. And so I don't think that's a big issue. Maybe it was a performance issue, but then again, we're all running really fast Macs now. I would love to know why that decision was made. And yeah, it would not harm anything for it to be longer that I could foresee.
Yeah. And I think maybe part of it is just this whole thing was, that's as much as we have time for right now.
Maybe.
And they had a lot on their plate this year. I did a show with Rosemary when you were out planning for St. Jude, and Rosa and I took apart all the new shortcuts stuff coming. Mm-hmm. But there is a nice substantive improvement to shortcuts this year. Have you played with any of that stuff?
A little bit. The thing that I think I'm most excited about is automations, which basically Apple's way of saying that you can have a shortcut run without direct input. So it can run at a particular time of day, or if an alarm goes off, do this, or if I receive an email or a message with these details, then set a shortcut off. That's really been missing from the Mac, and when we talk about Keyboard Maestro and others, these third-party tools, one thing that makes them so powerful is all the triggers you can choose from. And now Shortcut sort of graduates into the next level that you can have these things kind of ready to go, and you don't have to think, oh, it's 3 p.m. I need to go run my shortcut. No, it's it's 3 p.m. and your shortcut runs. And that's very good.
Yeah. I'm making an update to the shortcuts field guide. So if you've got those, watch your email in about 3 or 4 weeks. It's coming, and you'll get a free update with some new videos. But to me, the real win here is the access to AI models. Mm-hmm. And so you've got 3 ways you can go with a shortcut. You can do the on-device model, you can do ChatGPT, but the middle one, the Goldilocks one, is private cloud compute access for users. And this is, to me, really cool. I did videos on this in the lab, so the labs members know about this. But I've been doing this thing where I like to take my journal entry for the day, and then I like to throw it at an AI to say, ask me 5 thoughtful questions about my journal Like some things I should have thought about based on what happened today. I also like having it query me on Stoic virtues and different things. But I've always felt a little gross sending that stuff up to Claude or ChatGPT, right?
Sure.
So I built a shortcut that does this with Apple's private cloud compute. And if you don't remember, the PCC, that is a server Apple has somewhere that is completely anonymized and running an AI engine. It's bigger than the foundation model that's in your phone. It's going to give you a better answer, but it's still entirely private. And I was shocked at how good this thing did at giving me feedback on journal entries. And it was like, problem solved. I don't have to send this stuff off to, Sam Altman or whoever's at Anthropic. I can just, I can just send this up to private cloud compute. I mean, and that's the thing about AI that you have to realize is that Apple is behind, but right now, good enough is still pretty good for a lot of uses,
Yeah.
And this PCC thing is great. Developers can't access it, like at least at this point. Developers are writing AI stuff that uses the foundation model on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
But as a user in shortcuts, you can. I think this is Apple's way of kind of throttling it. I mean, how many people are writing shortcuts, right? But it allows them to kind of get the wheels turning in the PCC factory. And I am using it all the time. Ever since I did that video on the labs, I'm hearing from a ton of labs members that have written fairly complex, entirely private AI subroutines out of shortcuts. So I think this is kind of the sleeping giant of the update this year in shortcuts.
How is the speed on the private cloud compute things? For
what I'm doing, it's fine.
Okay.
It's probably a little faster if you go off to ChatGPT or Claude. But I mean, it's not like 5 minutes. It's like maybe 10 to 30 seconds.
Okay.
Probably closer
totally
to 10.
livable.
Yeah, it's fine. And I'm not using it to write from. I'm using it to critique and like ask questions. And to me, for whatever reason, I think that task is low enough on the bar that this whatever they're using to drive PCC is good enough for that. So anyway, yeah, I'm excited about that, and that's one of my favorite features this year.
There are some other features we want to touch on. There's folder labels. We're going to talk more about these and more power users. You've got the color tags, which are, the red, yellow, orange, green, blue, purple, gray. They're there, but now you can combine them with some select SF symbols or emoji to really customize folders, which I think is really cool.
Every time Apple says select SF symbols, I want to throw a brick through the window. I mean, I don't understand why they're so stingy with these symbols.
I know.
You can use some, but not many. They do the same thing in reminders where they've got a bunch of the SF symbols that you can make an icon for a reminders list. But it's like, I don't know, 50 they've got. Meanwhile, they've made like 1,000 SF symbols. I don't get it. Anyway, sorry. That's a little annoyance of mine.
I totally agree. One thing that we are both really enjoying is multiple control centers. So a couple of years ago, 2 years ago or last year, we got customizable control centers on iOS. You can have multiple pages. And now they've basically brought that to the Mac, a very similar user interface. So I have my sort of regular control center, and then I built a HomeKit control center that basically matches what's on my phone for my HomeKit stuff. And I love this. I can't wait for it to be more widely adopted. It is so powerful on the iPhone, and to have it on the Mac is fantastic.
Yeah, a big win. Same thing. And I think that's just the natural second control center is HomeKit stuff. If you've got home automation stuff in your house, why not have a separate menu bar item where you can control it all in just a click? Totally makes sense. There's a lot of third-party apps out there for now doing this stuff, but Apple needed to do this. I guess going back to our music complaints, you could make a music one too, and you could control all that from your menu bar. There's a lot of options here. Spend some time, turn in the wheels and the dials, make sure you understand it, and you're going to have ideas.
Yeah. I will say, at least with the HomeKit stuff, and maybe it's true of others, sometimes you don't have the exact same functionality. So like on the iPhone, you can adjust the thermostat from Control Center. You can't on the Mac. It opens the Home app. So I would like Apple and third-party devs to just make sure that your actions in Control Center are consistent, because I think the consistency here is really important to have, okay, if I have this sort of control, whether it's HomeKit or a third-party application doing something, that they act the same way. And so hopefully that gets cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, agreed. And this is the first go at this.
Totally.
This is another one. I'm giving them a little grace to get this sorted out. But the mere existence of the feature to me is excellent. ChatGPT and Image Playground. If you want Image Playground to be nice, use the ChatGPT bit of it.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
I'm unclear if Apple has, I think they do have a different set of limitations above what ChatGPT would do on its own. Apple has a tendency to keep these things pretty PG rated, which I don't disagree with necessarily. But it is not image, like it's going out, it's asking ChatGPT to make an image and it returns it, right? It's a similar thing you could do in the ChatGPT app or on the website. I think you could look at this and be like, oh gosh, like they know Image Playground is bad. I think they probably do know that. But also like they have integrated ChatGPT more and more across the ecosystem. And this is like another place where, it makes sense. Like if Apple has an image generation thing and they're partnered with ChatGPT or Google or somebody else in the future, like, it should be an option where you are. So you're just using the app you're used to, and you kind of just select like, okay, what service am I sort of requesting this from? I think it makes a lot of sense in that context.
I mean, there's a bigger story to this. Apple has, it seems like, got less precious about artificial intelligence and Apple Intelligence. I think the first time they went at it, they thought they would control the whole widget themselves. And, now it seems like they're more willing to open it up. I mean, there's real kind of substantive rumors about Apple opening up the entire Mac to an MCP, to a model context protocol, where you could use a third-party AI to control your Mac. And I think that is them kind of seeing what's going on and wanting to be part of the conversation. I mean, Apple is the ultimate arbiter of our data. Like all of us that use Apple gear, we have so much data in there. None of it, like me and my diary entries, we're all kind of precious about it. We don't really want to send it off to some AI somewhere. But if Apple can figure a way to harness those AIs to our data locally on our devices, I still think the vision of Apple Intelligence is spot on. They just got to execute it. And I think combining with some of these third-party companies is probably the best and fastest way to do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, clearly they've struggled to get there for whatever reason, a myriad of reasons, I think. And yeah, if Apple wants to sit in between me and an AI company and help negotiate, for lack of a better word, what data they get, how personalized it is, I'm not against that at all. Like, I think that's actually good for users and helps keep these AI companies at bay a little bit. So I expect to see more of this. I'm a little surprised we haven't seen a partnership with Google through Gemini and their other features yet. But ChatGPT, spreading its wings in more places on Apple's platforms.
Lately, I've been really smitten with Anthropic's Claude. It just, for the kind of stuff I do, it works really well. And I'm using some of its MCPs, and I feel like that also would be a very good fit for Apple. It seems like the kind of the corporate culture would fit, but I don't know. We'll see. We got some new apps as well on the Mac.
Yeah, we got the phone app in 2025. I think this is great. I find myself making phone calls a lot at work, and it does the call screening and message transcription stuff that you get elsewhere. This app in particular, it feels like the most modern interpretation of how Apple is designing apps. Like if you're on Tahoe and you open the phone app, there are parts of it that feel a little bit weird on the Mac. Like at some point I had a popover and the escape key didn't work to close it. It's like, well, it should work. That's how the Mac works. I had to go find the cancel button. But the way it looks, the way it works, it feels very modern. I think in a good way. And noticeably, it lacks, we spoke about this last time, in the phone app, you can switch between the classic and the combined view. It's just the combined view. They built this new, that makes sense to me. Why would you port in the classic design? But it's great because, before it would do the weird thing where like it would open the FaceTime app and like hand it off to your phone. It was weird. And now it's just like, it just opens the phone app, it makes a call, and you're all set.
Yeah. And I really find, I don't make many calls from it, but I love that when a call comes in, I can see the transcription, everything just right there on my screen. And it's actually quite useful.
Yeah, it is.
I thought at first, I'm like, well, what do I need that for? And I find I use it. The journal app has finally made its way over to the Mac. It's still fairly limited, but it's a free app that can get you journaling, and now it's across all the platforms. Good on you.
Yeah, I played with the export functionality, and it exports things basically into like a structured HTML folder. So you have your entries and you have your images. Export is always good in tools like this. It's got some notifications you can set up for reminders. The big thing with Journal that they launched it with, and the reason it launched on the iPhone, is the iPhone's the only platform that has this like, it's based on this technology called NS User, I think. But basically like, this is the music you listen to today. These are the podcasts you listen to today. And if developers opt into that, then they can basically donate your activity to the Journal app. That is still iPhone only. So when you open it on the Mac or the iPad, it's simpler. But then if you open it on the phone, it still has all the suggestions about, where you've been and those other things. Maybe at some point they could sync that with iCloud. So if I opened it on the Mac, that activity data would be there from my phone. But I'm just glad it's on the Mac. I mean, our joint complaint about this when it launched was it's iPhone only. And if for a lot of people, if you're going to sit down and do some serious writing, you want a keyboard. So you want it on the iPad or the Mac, and it's here. It's basic, but it's totally going to get the job done for you.
Yeah, agreed. The live activities, that idea that you have on your phone coming over to the menu bar was a great feature that does not work for either one of us. I have never got this to work.
Yeah, I have yet to see a live activity in my menu bar. Now, I have iPhone notifications set up, and they also aren't coming in. And like I have it set up correctly. So maybe there's a bit of a bug at the moment, but I'm looking forward to the day when they show up, because I love live activities. I don't think we talked about this. I love that they're in CarPlay now. And maybe one day my Mac and iPhone will talk to each other again.
I want to in the future do a check-in on my car. My non-CarPlay car, but not today. Also, just a little bit of business as we wrap up here on macOS. One thing that has happened since all this releases is I've been getting messages from some listeners saying, hey, I'm not going to be using a MacBook Air anymore. I'm going to be using an iPad now for my mobile. A lot of people have like a desktop Mac, and now they're going to use iPad because of the changes we talked about last week. Steve and I are going to do a show on that. If that is you, if you're making some changes based on new operating system, write in and tell us what you're doing, because we're looking to see what people are doing now with the new iPad OS.
Yes.
This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by Indeed. Go to Indeed.com/MPU and join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Hiring the right person for your team is so important. Get it wrong and you can expect stress for everyone involved. Thankfully, Indeed is there to help you get it right the first time. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites, and their sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster, and it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data worldwide, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. And what I love about Indeed is the way it gets you qualified people so quickly, because getting that right hire is so important. Indeed is a huge filter that just gets you the most qualified people and helps you on that path. With sponsored jobs, there are no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you'll only pay for results. And how fast does it all happen? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And Mac Power Users listeners will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/MPU. Just go to Indeed.com/MPU right now and support the Mac Power Users by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. INDEED.com/MPU. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. And our thanks to Indeed for their support of the Mac Power Users and Olive Relay.
We do want to touch on some of the other operating systems that have been updated. And up next is visionOS 26. I have spent zero time with this. Like, I think there's a beta on my Vision Pro, but I haven't gotten it out to update it. Like, it's just sitting over there in a cabinet. How has this been? Because you're still in Vision Pro land.
I always want to laugh. You just really have given up on visionOS, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, I just sorry. Like,
Okay. So the way I use it is somewhat limited, but I live with 3 women and they don't like all the shows I do. Like right now, Slow Horses is got a new season out. I love sitting in my visionOS and watching it on the big screen. Like that's a perfect example for content consumption. Second thing is I'm always playing with some of the 3D games, or I guess vision games, whatever you call them.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are really fun and fun to explore. I like some of the informative ones. Like I heard that they're building a fully rendered 3D model of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, which was like, I think it lasted like 1,600 years before it fell into the ocean. Like I'll be able to walk through that in my visionOS. I can't wait. The other thing I do with it is the writing environment. And this was something I talked about when it first released, but I use the Yosemite environment and Apple Notes, and I write most of my blog posts and newsletters just sitting there kind of tuned out from the world. So that's my use. What we got this year? Well, we got widgets that like embed into the walls. It's kind of fun, when you look up there and you see your calendar or whatever. I don't find it all that useful. When I work, because of the workflows I've explained, I actually don't want a bunch of widgets. I don't want a lot of distraction. I kind of like being in visionOS. I like it to be kind of solitary. The other thing we got is massively upgraded personas. They're much better. I guess you and I should arrange a call someday. They look way better, but I never use them. I mean, I was just talking in the labs. I'm going to get a group of labs people together and we're going to like try and meet every couple months or something in Vision Land, because I just don't have any experience doing this stuff. Because to me, visionOS is like the place I go to get away from the world, not to talk to other people. But they are extensively better. They've got some new plugins for Safari. They call it Spatial Safari. I have found that really not that useful. We need people out in the world to actually build for it, and we're not getting that much of it. But it's also what I'm calling early day strides, because it's such a new operating system. There's still a lot of low-hanging fruit that needs to be picked. And this year we got some of it picked, there's folders now. You can organize your apps. That sounds crazy, but didn't have that before.
Yeah, that was a frustrating point in visionOS 1 and 2 for me. Is like, why can't I have more control over this?
It used to be a big deal when if you had to check something on your phone while you're wearing it and you couldn't unlock it because it couldn't see your face. And like now they fixed that. And switching to allow other people to try it was completely bananas when they first released, and it's gotten better. So they're making progress on little things. I still, none of it has really changed my workflows in there. The one workflow I would really like to develop is kind of like a glassboard workflow where you could have a big, fill the room with a glassboard that you could write your thoughts on and develop ideas with virtually. And I kind of wanted that. Freeform seems like a natural for it. They announced a new product at WWC, the Logitech Muse pencil. Logitech already makes this pencil for other virtual reality headsets, but it's a pencil where you're supposed to be able to write in space and it'll show up. I don't really know how it works. I'm going to get one as soon as they have it, but it's not out yet.
Yeah. I just went to the webpage. It's coming later this year.
Same thing with the Sense controllers from PlayStation. I feel like the games could get better if you could have some proper game controllers, and those are not supported yet either. So there's still work to be done. I'm glad to see Apple's continuing work on it. We're hearing rumors that there's an upgraded Vision Pro around the corner. just with the, I think what they're saying, the M5 processor, not really anything else. But I don't really think that, I have any problem with the current hardware. It works fine. Although I guess as AI gets better, that's where you're going to need more processing power.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice update this year. It's not revolutionary. It's evolutionary. They're hitting some of that low-hanging fruit that's still there. And I would, the chicken and egg problem still exists. Like, I love Drafts. Drafts is my favorite app. Greg's a friend. But he can't justify spending money and time building a Vision app when Stephen Hackett won't even turn his on. That's a good example, right? I mean, you are a power user and you're just not interested. Apple has always been able to take for granted that they're going to have a lot of users with anything they make. And this is the first time that hasn't come true. And you're seeing it in the App Store.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can tell you, Widgetsmith is on visionOS, and it doesn't have a big user base. And Widgetsmith is a humongous app, and it just hasn't been there on Vision Pro in a way that makes sense to continue investing in it at this point. It's early days for the Vision Pro and visionOS platform, and it's going to move slower than something like the iPad, mostly because of the cost, I think. But Apple is staying at it, and I think that's good. I think these updates, like, they're thinking deeply about things they need to improve and change, and like things like the Logitech Muse. Like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Like, Apple seemed very set on, like, you just need your hands and eyes. And I think they've realized through feedback or through user data or whatever, like, oh, people want to use a keyboard and trackpad at times. Let's make that better. Now, people want hand controls. People want a pen to be able to write. Like, they are opening the door to things that they seemed, maybe they just hadn't gotten to it yet, but they seemed a little closed off from before. And I think that's a sign that they are taking it seriously, and they're going to keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, and honestly, it's early days, and when they get to a point where the hardware gets more affordable, the operating system's going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it's true. This episode of Mac Power Users is brought to you by SQL Pro Studio. If you work with SQL, you know the value of a fast, clean, and reliable database client. SQL Pro Studio is an independently developed, powerful database manager built for developers who want speed without the bloat. SQL Pro Studio supports all the major players, including Postgres, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, SQLite, Oracle, and more, all in one app. Whether you're writing queries or browsing data or debugging production issues, SQL Pro makes it smooth and efficient. Tabbed connections, customizable themes, and syntax highlighting make everything feel like it should. And you can easily filter results or export data with a couple of clicks. It is 100% native for macOS and iOS with sync between the platforms, so you can take your queries on the go. If you want a database client that respects your time and helps you stay productive, head to SQLProStudio.com and use the code RELAY30 for 30% off. That's 30% off if you use the code RELAY30 at SQLProStudio.com. The link is in the show notes. And our thanks to SQL Pro for their support of the show and all of Relay.
All right, how about watchOS?
So, watchOS 26. Look, my headline, liquid glass on a tiny screen. I think this is a bit of a take that, at least I know one of my other co-hosts, Mike Corelli, disagrees with. I actually really like liquid glass on watchOS. Like, if you get, you pull down the notifications, like, it feels and looks like a water bubble on top of the screen. And it's because liquid glass is like taking over the screen. I really like it. I think the watch should be like fun and playful in a way, and liquid glass brings that. So I like the redesign on the watch.
Yeah, I think it's fine. My take on liquid glass is universal. It's like, yeah, that's nice, but it's not it's not going to change the world, but it's not going to, ruin the world either.
Sure.
A couple things, because I got a new one. This is a mix of operating system update and just Dave getting a new watch. But this wrist flick gesture, man, I know some of our listeners are ahead of me on this because they got new watches the last couple of years. But man, it's such a game changer if you use your watch to like set timers and get alerts, just to flick your wrist. Man, I love that. Also, we got a new face with the Ultra this year, which is like a navigation face. It's called Waypoint. I'm digging Waypoint. As much as I whine and moan about Apple Watch faces, Waypoint is pushing my buttons right now.
Yeah, it's nice when they get a win with a new watch face, because very often new watch faces I feel like are like the one that's like, I don't know the name. I don't have an Apple Watch on today, but the one that's like the liquid glass numbers is like, I just can't straight up can't read that. Like, what are you doing?
I'm not interested. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I would like to be able to tell the time when I look at my watch, but that's okay. Yeah. That watch face is nice. I have played with that. And the gesture stuff is really cool, and making the watch usable one-handed seems like a bananas goal, but like they're getting there, right? Like you can do simple things, tapping your fingers together, doing the wrist flick gesture. I would imagine that, that on the watch and on Vision Pro, like, they're trying to solve similar problems with hand tracking and other things. I think that's fantastic.
What do you call watch enthusiasts? You call them horologists or something like that?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, in that world, there's a term called tool watch. I didn't know it until my kids got me a watch and they said it's a tool watch. Well, I'm a tool watch kind of guy. I want my watch face to be like a tool watch. Mm-hmm. And so many of the ones Apple makes, like that goofy liquid glass one, just are not even at all interesting to me. Sleep Score. Have you played with that?
Yes, I've spent a lot of time looking at Sleep Score because I work on Sleep++. Apple's Sleep Score is really just extending some things they were already doing in the first-party sleep tracking. For a while, they've tracked things like how long you sleep, the consistency of when you fall asleep, and even the like your awake periods. Sleep Score is basically bundling all that up and giving you a score on basically how well the Apple Watch thinks you slept. But it doesn't seem to take into account some other factors like heart rate variability, resting heart rate, and your sleep goal. And so apps like Sleep++ or our competitors can offer, I still think, a more complete picture of your sleep. Like, it's great that I have like a 99 sleep score because I slept really well. But did I sleep really well because I ran a marathon the next day? And like, I am more interested in a readiness score that gives me a more complete picture. Like, yeah, I may have slept well, but the marathon wore me out. My readiness score isn't great today. Like, that can be an indicator that maybe I take it easy today. Maybe I just do some stretching and, eat well. And I've never run a marathon. I don't know what you do the day after a marathon, but it is a good feature, but it's not a complete feature. So I think third parties are still have plenty of room in this market.
Yeah. I'm having trouble getting behind Workout Buddy. I've had it turned on. I do some workouts and some gym stuff, and a fake buddy talking to me just doesn't work.
I don't find that sort of thing at all like energizing or to be a motivation. Some people it is. Like some people, I'm sure this is excellent, or they want the group workout experience with someone cheering you on. Like I find that off-putting personally. And so Workout Buddy is something that I'm not interested in. I think it's a little bit different than like if you're doing like a couch to 5K type thing. And it's like, hey, run. Okay. You're now walk. You're going to run again in 15 seconds. Now run. Like the directions are different, but hey, you just closed your fastest mile or whatever. Like I'm not interested in that personally.
Although I will say in my Fantasy Hike app, we had a guest on that shared this app 3 or 4 months ago. I have now walked 188 miles on my trip to Mount Doom.
That's awesome.
Okay, volume adjustment is an interesting feature. So the idea is if you're in a loud room, it's louder. If you're in a quiet room, the sounds are quieter. But like in our little group of friends, I think none of us have sounds turned on probably our phones or our watches.
No.
Yeah, and I think that's fairly common. I don't think it's just a nerd thing to turn it off. But just in honor of this change, the last month or so, I've been keeping the sounds turned on my watch and my phone. So I'm getting dings and alerts. And I have to say that the soundscape of both of these devices is delightful. I feel like Apple has done a really good job with the sounds if you want sounds. But I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it on.
Yeah, I don't like. I was just like thinking, because I'm around people who wear Apple Watches. Like my wife wears an Apple Watch. Most of my friends do. I don't know the last time I heard an Apple Watch sound. I would imagine that the vast majority of users have it silenced, which I think makes a lot of sense. And you have the whole reason they have the Taptic engine in there is so you can feel when it needs your, when a notification comes in or an alert comes in. You don't have to hear it. That's like the whole point. But yeah, Apple sound design, a few years ago, they changed a lot of the sounds on macOS, and I think mostly for the better. I think some of them were a regression. But then I just noticed the other night, my wife was iMessaging somebody on her laptop and the speakers were on. It's like, oh, those are the old iChat sounds. Like Apple does a really good job with sound design. And yeah, maybe the watch could be a candidate for some additional work.
And finally, we got notes on the Apple Watch. And,
awesome.
Is it though? I mean, I don't know. like I have one, like medical notes. Like I just keep little notes when I go to the doctor. I was at the doctor the other day and I thought, well, she asked me a question. I said, well, I wonder if I could get that on my watch. And then I thought about it and I looked at her sitting there and I thought, I'm going to open up my phone. I'm not going to fiddle with my watch here. So I'm curious to see what the use cases are for it, but I'm glad it's there, but I'm not sure that I'll ever use it. Do you have a case for it?
I mean, now that you put it that way, probably not. But hey, they did it. Somebody will find it useful.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear, maybe in feedback episode, we'll have some good stories about it, but I'm not sure how useful it is to me. But yeah, good on you, Apple. Made one good face this year. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And the rest is gravy. Okay, so we have now covered all the operating systems this year. Overall, how are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. These releases, in my experience, have been, once we're kind of out of the early betas, remarkably stable. Like I'm running Tahoe on my production machine earlier than I normally would put a macOS release on my production machine. It's been totally fine. Phone is great. The watch is great. I feel like really this Apple landed the plane better than I feared. Not that there's not work to do on the design. There clearly is, right? That they have things they need to address. But in terms of usability and stability, it's pretty good for being at the 0.0 still. And I think Apple has paid better attention to making non-breaking changes, right? There was a time where, it was a made-up example, but like iOS 4 to 5, if you didn't update your app for iOS 5 and a user updated, the app would be broken or like part of the UI wouldn't render. And Apple has done a much better job at preserving that compatibility. It's not perfect. Like you can still run into issues, but they've made strides there, I think, that make developers' lives better, but also make users' lives better. Because the last thing you want is to update your phone and then like the apps you rely on don't work or the program you need on your Mac crashes at launch. Like I haven't experienced any of that with a new release in a long time. And I think that's to Apple's great credit.
Yeah. And, some years we don't get as many features as we want. And we all have our pet things we want them to fix or change. But something that has gone on over the last 15 years is Apple has really done a good job at like kind of pulling everything together. Swift UI, the new memory system, the new disk system. I mean, all of this stuff I feel like combines to make a unified Apple platform that goes out to all their hardware, and it makes these kind of significant years of change less dramatic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. They've got a lot of platforms to move kind of at the same time. And they've done a lot of work internally to make that easier, right? Where the underpinnings of macOS and iOS and iPadOS are closer than ever. They kind of drifted apart and they brought them back together several years ago, like deep foundational level stuff. And that work, that work's not exciting. That work barely makes a mention in the State of the Union at WWDC, but it's important. And now Apple can reap the benefits of that. Same thing with Mac Catalyst, right? Messages, Maps, lots of other Mac apps are really Mac Catalyst apps now. And what that means is when a new feature comes to one place, it comes to the Mac too. And they've been laying the groundwork for that probably for a decade. And having we're going to roll out a new design, we're going to roll out new features, and it's basically all going to be mostly okay. That's a win, I think.
I agree. We are the Mac Power Users. You can find us at relay.fm/MPU to leave feedback and sign up for membership for More Power Users. More Power Users is the ad-free extended version of the show. We'd love to have you on the team. Today in More Power Users, Stephen and I are going to go deep on how we're customizing our Finder. Thank you to our sponsors, Squarespace, Indeed, SQL Pro Studio, and we'll see you next time.